Tonight, let us quietly journey back to a time long ago, to the days of the ancient family of Isaac and Rebekah. In a wide, peaceful land under a great, gentle sky, two brothers lived side by side. These brothers were named Esau and Jacob. Their lives were woven together by the threads of family, tradition, and the quiet rhythms of their daily world. Esau was the older brother. He was strong and skilled in the ways of the outdoors. Picture him, perhaps, with hands roughened by the earth and eyes clear like the open sky. He loved the wild things, the hunt, and the fresh air. His heart beat steadily with the pulse of the forest and fields. Jacob, the younger one, was different. He was softer in some ways, spending time near the tents, quiet and thoughtful. The stories tell us he was gentle, often by the side of his mother, close and careful. It's not always clear how they felt about each other, but their lives were closely connected, like two rivers running beside one another. Now in those days, the idea of a birthright was very important. The birthright was a special blessing, a gift passed from father to firstborn son. This birthright meant a place of honor, the leadership of the family after the father was gone, and a larger share of the family's inheritance. It was a promise, like a soft, steady light shining ahead into the future. Only the firstborn son held this gift. Esau, as the firstborn, held this birthright. Some say he did not think much about it in the moment. The story gently reminds us that sometimes people make decisions in times of hurry or hunger that they later see in a different light. Esau, after a day of working in the fields, came home very tired and hungry. Jacob was cooking a meal, a simple pot of red stew. The smell of it might have started to fill the air, warm and inviting after a long day. As Esau walked in, the hunger in his body was strong. It was a raw and honest hunger, the kind that wakes us deeply from the inside. Esau said to Jacob, "Let me eat some of that red stew. I am very hungry." Jacob looked at his brother and saw the need there, the hunger pressing like a small storm inside him. Then a quiet but strange moment happened. Jacob said something surprising. He asked Esau to sell him his birthright, his special place as the firstborn, in exchange for some food. The words floated gently across the space between them. "Sell me your birthright now," Jacob said. "Give it to me. I will give you food to eat." The story does not tell us exactly what Esau was thinking in his heart. Perhaps hunger clouded his vision a little. Maybe he felt the urgency of the moment more strongly than the weight of the future promise in his hands. In that quiet moment, Esau said, "I am about to die. Of what use is the birthright to me?" So Esau agreed. He sold his birthright to Jacob for a simple meal of bread and lentil stew. Plain meal, but it seemed very precious to him at that moment. The exchange was made with a whisper of words and the unspoken weight of what birthright meant. Then Esau ate and drank, and in doing so, he gave up a special blessing that usually belonged to the firstborn son. The story gently tells us this moment with soft honesty, without judgment or harshness. It is a quiet reflection on choice, hunger, and what we value when we make decisions. Jacob respected the seriousness of what had just happened. He did not tease or boast. The moment was tender, a small but significant turning point in the lives of these two brothers and their family's story, woven in the gentle fabric of their days. Later on, as the evening shadows grew long and the stars began to twinkle quietly in the sky, Esau may have felt the full weight of what had passed. Sometimes, choices made in sudden hunger are seen in a new light when the day is done. The story holds a soft space for us to wonder about Esau's feelings, whether he understood in that moment what the birthright truly meant, or whether he thought the future could still hold other promises for him. The ancient words do not say for certain. In these quiet moments, the story invites us to sit gently with the brothers, with their hopes and struggles, and to breathe slowly as we imagine the long path ahead. The night deepens outside and the story stays with us like a calm, reflective whisper, making space for the next part of the journey to unfold in its own time. So, here in this stillness, we rest with Esau and Jacob, two brothers whose lives are about to weave new patterns through time. Tomorrow, or maybe the day after, more will come to light. But for now, the night wraps around them, soft and dark, full of quiet possibilities. The quiet of the evening deepened around the family tents. Flickering shadows cast by the firelight played softly upon the canvas and the nearby trees. Outside, the air was cooler now, the heat of the day retreating into the earth's gentle embrace. Inside, Jacob sat silently, the weight of the moment resting heavily between him and his brother. Esau leaned against the entrance, his body still carrying the exhaustion of his labor, his stomach finally filled, but sensing something more had shifted beneath the surface. His eyes caught Jacob's steady gaze, and for a brief moment, no words were spoken. The red stew, once just a simple meal, had become a symbol of something far greater, a promise, a passing of destiny. The night deepened. Around the tent, stars began their quiet watch, unknowing witnesses to the unfolding path that had been altered by a hungry man's choice and a brother's patience. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying faint scents from distant places, a hint of rain, the smell of earth, and the promise of new days. In the calm that followed, wrapped in the cool night air and the quiet crackle of fading embers, both brothers settled into reflection. Esau's mind wandered, touching moments past and glimpses of what might come. His heart, still beating strongly, felt both the freedom and the weight of what had just passed from his hand. Jacob, in his quiet way, respected the gravity of their exchange. He did not speak of victory or boast of gain. Instead, he understood the delicate balance their relationship held, the fragile threads that connected them through honor, family, and the unseen currents of fate. The birthright was more than an inheritance of land or possessions. It was the blessing of leadership, the mantle from father to firstborn, the covenant of future hope for a family's legacy. To Jacob, it was a trust to bear with humility and care. To Esau, in that moment of hunger and fatigue, it had seemed a burden too distant to hold on to. As the night aged, the brothers drifted to their rest, each wrapped in dreams shaded by the day's choices. The tent walls, soft and worn, held the echoes of their lives, joy, struggle, hope, and uncertainty. And through it all, the quiet understanding that families like rivers bend and flow in ways unseen, carrying all who follow their course toward valleys unknown. Morning would come again, filled with light and new challenges. But for now, under the vast and tender sky, Esau and Jacob rested, their hearts entwined by the day's events, their futures unfolding quietly beyond the horizon. The night deepened its quiet cloak around them, wrapping the world in shadow and soft chill. Stars twinkled softly overhead, indifferent to the shifting fortunes beneath their watch. The earth breathed steadily, a gentle rhythm in harmony with the slower pulse of the two brothers resting within its fold. Neither spoke again that evening. Jacob sat still beside the simple pot, the meal he had prepared now long finished. His fingers rested lightly on the earth, tracing patterns in the dust, as if trying to grasp something unseen but deeply felt. His heart was calm, yet weighted with the profound responsibility he had quietly accepted. The birthright was more than a mere token. It was a seed, a promise, a fragile thread connecting past and future. Holding it now, even though it was not yet fully his to claim, stirred within him a sense of purpose that softened the edges of his youthful ambitions. Esau lay nearby, the faintest traces of the stew lingering within his senses, but hunger had faded into a different kind of emptiness. His eyes stared upward, lost among the constellations. The enormity of what he had surrendered was veiled by the present relief of his appetite. Sleep tugged gently at his limbs, yet some part of him remained alert, as if sensing the quiet shift lurking beneath the night's stillness. There was an unspoken gravity between them, like a silent understanding that the days ahead would no longer be the same. They shared the common space of their camp, but were worlds apart in thought and feeling. Neither sought to bridge the distance with words. What was said in trade could not be unsaid, and what was given would alter their lives forever. As the darkness moved with a measured grace, wind whispered through the trees nearby, carrying with it a cool sigh. It stirred leaves, rustled dry grass, and filled the air with a song of continuity, reminding all who listened that life's currents fly on beyond momentary exchanges and immediate needs. Jacob's mind wandered through the stories told by his father, tales of ancestors whose footsteps they followed. The weight of those legacies was heavy. Each link in the chain bore the mark of struggle, faith, and survival. The birthright was an inheritance of hope, a covenant with the future that required stewardship, courage, and sometimes sacrifice. The thought settled within him gently but firmly, like a seed nestled in fertile soil, waiting for the dawn's warmth. In the cool quiet, a subtle shift began in Esau's heart as well. Though weariness wrapped his body, His spirit wrestled with the faint stirring of regret and something akin to longing. The deep hunger he once felt was now mirrored by a hunger of a far different nature, a need for belonging, for recognition, for the future he had traded so easily. Yet he was still wrapped in the moment's relief and the softness of night's embrace. Somewhere within that silence, a fragile thread of reflection wove between the brothers. Distance was not driven by bitterness, but by forces unseen, by choices made too swiftly, by hunger's fleeting demand. Beneath it all lingered the bond of blood, a quiet tether resilient, though strained. As hours passed, sleep finally claimed their heavy limbs. Dreams came in whispers, shapes shifting between shadow and light, hinting at promises and warnings intertwined. Stars wheeled silently overhead, bearing witness as dreams of leadership, loss, hope, and reconciliation mingled within the night's embrace. The land itself seemed to cradle the brothers in a gentle hold. The subtle pulse of life coursed beneath them, the steady crawl of night insects, the song of distant creatures calling into darkness, the scent of earth and stone softened by evening's calm. Time breathed slowly, suspended between what was and what might be. Before dawn, a cortege of soft hues began to brush the eastern sky. Pale pinks and gentle golds crept like a welcome, nudging the world toward new light. Jacob and Esau stirred in their rest, movements reluctant but real. The night's heavy shroud lifted, replaced by the fragile blush of morning. In that moment, the possibilities ahead stretched broad and uncertain. The choices of yesterday bore weight, but tomorrow held its own path, waiting to unfold with quiet inevitability. They would rise, carry their burdens, face the day's challenges, and walk their separate journeys, yet always tethered by shared history and the complex dance of brotherhood. The birthright, though quietly claimed, would ripple through years yet to come. Jacob's quiet acceptance invited patience and readiness to bear its demands. Esau's impulsive surrender whispered warnings of haste, reminding all who heard this story that value lies deep beneath surface need. And so the family story carried on, woven by the threads of love and conflict, hunger and hope, choice and consequence. The stars above, fading before dawn's steady glow, bore silent testament to the enduring journey of two brothers destined to shape the tides of history. In the soft morning light, the red stew pot was empty, but the legacy it stirred was just beginning to kindle beneath the rising sun. The morning sun stretched its golden fingers cautiously across the quiet hills, tenderly waking the world with gentle light. Dew clung to the grass like scattered jewels, and the breeze whispered softly among the trees, a lullaby for the earth's slow stirring. In this calm, the weight of yesterday's decisions rested heavily in the air, subtle but unshakable. Jacob rose with measured calm, his heart steady, though the path ahead was uncertain. He moved with care, the birthright now settled wholly in his hands, an inheritance not merely of wealth or land, but of spiritual duty, of legacy woven through generations. As he stepped toward the familiar wellspring where water ran clear and cold, his thoughts were quiet but deep. To bear the mantle his father had worn, to honor their forefathers, was no ordinary task. It was a sacred charge, blending pride and humility, power and responsibility. Nearby, Esau sat on a low stone beneath an ancient olive tree, tracing circles in the dust with a calloused finger. His mind was a tumult of past hunger and fleeting satisfaction, sharper now in hindsight. The memory of Jacob's slow, deliberate voice, offering stew in exchange for birthright, stirred a mix of anger and regret. Hunger, simple and fierce, had worn away caution and wisdom. But beneath the regret was something softer, a yearning not yet fully understood, a desire for acknowledgement, for belonging beyond mere survival. The wind carried the faint scent of wild fig and thyme, soothing and grounding. Esau looked toward the horizon, where fields of grain swayed gently, and the village smoke promised warmth and life. The land was wide, its promise both a comfort and a reminder. Tomorrow held no clear shape, only the faint outline of hope and the shadow of consequence. Jacob approached slowly, his gaze steady yet not without sorrow. The brothers exchanged a glance not of confrontation but of recognition, complex and weighted. In their eyes the bond of blood flowed, as vital as it was fragile. They spoke little, for words, sharp or soft, could not easily reach the spaces created by their choices. Instead, there was a stillness, a fragile accord beneath the sun's rising warmth. With deliberate grace, Jacob drew water and offered it to Esau. The small gesture, simple and unadorned, held a deep meaning, a thread of peace and shared origin. Esau accepted without hesitation, the water's coolness a balm to more than just his thirst. As the day unfolded, each brother set out along separate paths, their footsteps echoing different rhythms. Jacob's was careful and thoughtful, burdened yet dignified. Esau's was restless, stirred by hunger not just for food, but for life's fuller essence. Along the way, Jacob reflected again on the stories told by firelight in childhood, the tales of Isaac, Rebekah, Abraham, and Sarah. Their struggles and faith threaded his spirit like a steady melody. Holding tight to these echoes, he understood that the birthright was more than a promise of inheritance. It was a call to steward not only land and wealth, but hope and covenant. The landscape around him was alive with gentle reminders. A sturdy oak stood sentinel against the sky, its roots deep in earth, its branches reaching for light, like the birthright itself, anchoring and aspiring. Birds called softly overhead, their songs weaving through the breeze, a soundtrack to the unfolding day. Meanwhile, Esau journeyed through the rough terrain with pounding heartbeats, caught between the lingering taste of stew and the sharp edges of his longing. In bustling marketplaces and quiet groves, he sought moments of connection, smiles, words, the recognition he craved. Some greeted him kindly, others were indifferent. The world, vast and unpredictable, mirrored his own unrest. In the evening coolness, the two brothers found themselves near the well where day and night met in gentle transition. They did not speak, but sat quietly, each wrapped in his own reflections. The fading light cast long shadows, intertwining like the threads of their shared history. The land held its breath, embracing both the sorrow and the hope carried in this silent communion. The stars began to emerge, timid but steady, their pale light weaving a tapestry that connected past and future. Under that vast sky, the brothers' dreams, marked by leadership and loss, yearning and reconciliation, blended into the quiet night. As darkness deepened, Jacob felt the gentle weight of responsibility settle firmly but not oppressively on his shoulders. He understood that his journey was just beginning, the birthright's path winding through many seasons, shaped by faith and resilience. Esau, too, felt the stirrings of something new, a quiet resolve amid the restlessness, a hope that would one day find its way home. The story of Jacob and Esau, marked by love, conflict, choice, and consequence, unfolded beneath the steady pulse of the earth and stars. It was a story not easily told or neatly resolved, but one carried in the rhythms of the land, the whisper of the wind, and the beating hearts of two brothers bound by something deeper than circumstance. And here, beneath the vast, enduring sky, the tale paused, caught between what was and what might yet be, waiting quietly to continue with the dawn. Night unfolds softly around them, a vast canvas brushed with shadows and silver light. The well's water murmurs gently nearby, echoing the quiet sigh of the earth settling into rest. Jacob and Esau sit close, yet separated by the delicate space of unspoken words. Their breathing blends with the nocturnal symphony, the pulse of crickets, the stir of leaves, the distant cry of an owl. Jacob's gaze drifts upward. Stars, sharp and steady, flicker with ancient patience. They remind him of the promise whispered long ago, of descendants woven like the heavens, a tapestry unbreakable beneath the watchful eyes of the cosmos. The birthright is not merely a mantle of inheritance, it is a covenant, wrapped in responsibility as much as blessing, a seed sown deep within soil and spirit alike. Esau's eyes follow the same stars but see something different, a map marked by fateful crossings, a compass spinning between longing and regret. The night wind ruffles his hair, carrying scents of dry earth and distant wood smoke, anchoring him in the present, even as his heart yearns for something just beyond reach. They speak finally, their voices low and steady, weaving threads of memory and hope without the sting of blame. The past is a river that flows through their veins, sometimes turbulent, sometimes gentle, yet always alive. They acknowledge the wounds time has made, those that linger unseen, but felt nonetheless. Esau speaks of the fields he once roamed, the rush of the hunt, the taste of freedom mingled with solitude. His voice carries the rough warmth of firelight, revealing the complexity of a man who is no longer simply the boy who traded away his birthright, but someone searching for his own place beneath the vast sky. Jacob listens with quiet grace, knowing that strength is not only found in waiting and watching, but also in understanding and embracing another's journey. His own path is lined with the weight of legacy, but also with the hope that healing can grow in unlikely soil. Together they rise, the well's waters glinting faintly under the moon's gentle touch. They move toward the campfire, where the flickering flames tell stories of endurance and renewal. Around them, the night holds its breath, full of possibilities unspoken. In this shared stillness, a fragile peace settles, not a grand triumph, but a quiet beginning. Both brothers carry the echoes of their choices, the lessons carved by time and circumstance. Yet beneath it all, a tentative thread of forgiveness weaves through their bond, binding past and future with subtle, steady grace. As the fire's glow softens, they turn their faces upward once more. The stars remain, silent witnesses to a promise far greater than any single moment. A promise of reconciliation, growth, and the enduring strength of family. With a final breath of the cool night air, they part once again, footsteps merging with the earth's gentle rhythm. The journey continues, both separate and intertwined, beneath the same unfolding sky. And in the quiet that follows, the world holds space for what is to come, patiently watching over the story yet untold. The night air held a subtle chill as Jacob and Esau lingered near the dying embers of the campfire. The flicker of flames seemed to soften the sharp edges of their past, weaving a fragile calm between them. Around them, the vast silence of the wilderness stretched endlessly, a solemn backdrop to their quiet companionship. Jacob's gaze drifted upward, tracing the slow course of the stars. Each one seemed to pulse with ancient light, steady and unyielding. In the vastness above, he sensed not only divine promise, but the delicate balance between destiny and choice. The weight of his birthright coursed through his thoughts, a tapestry stretched tight with the threads of blessing, burden, and hope. Esau sat close, his breath measured steady, as if grounding himself in this moment of stillness. There was a subtle strength underlying his restlessness, a resilience born from the wilderness where he had roamed free, yet alone. His heart bore the ache of what had been surrendered, and beyond that, a quiet hope buried deep, fragile as new dawn mist. "Do you ever wonder," Esau began softly, "how different things might have been if the path had opened to me another way?" His voice was low, filled with neither anger nor sorrow, but the wonder of a man seeking understanding. Jacob nodded, the firelight drawing shadows across his contemplative face. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But I believe that every step, even the uncertain ones, shape us into who we must become. Our stories are not just about what is gained or lost, but what we choose to carry forward." Esau's eyes lingered on the flickering flames, reflecting their warmth and fragility. "I was so quick to trade away what was mine, not just the birthright, but my freedom, as though hunger could be tasted and satisfied not only in body, but in spirit." Jacob reached out, resting a hand on Esau's shoulder, the touch steady and gentle. "Hunger has many faces. It is not only hunger for food, but for belonging, for purpose, for peace. I think we've both felt these deep hungers, even if our ways have been different." In the quiet that followed, the brothers shared an unspoken understanding, as if the very air between them moved toward healing. The night's cool whisper seemed to carry their shared breath, drawing them into a delicate stillness. "Tell me," Jacob said after a moment, "what do you carry with you now? When you leave this place, what is it that you hope to find?" Esau looked beyond the firelight, his gaze distant yet clear. "I carry a new beginning. I carry the understanding that my worth is not defined by what I have lost, but by what I can still become. I seek a place where I am more than the echo of my mistakes, where my strength can be my own." Jacob smiled quietly. "That is a brave journey, and you will not be alone. We are bound by more than blood, by the choices we make now, and the forgiveness we embrace." The fire dwindled, leaving only glowing coals that pulsed slowly beneath the ash. The brothers rose, their movements unhurried, matched in a silent rhythm of mutual respect. Together, they stepped away from the campfire, toward the canvas of night. The sky above them stretched wide and infinite, a vast expanse of possibility. The bright stars seemed to pulse gently, as if affirming the fragile peace now tenuously held between two paths that crossed in the valleys of memory, but stretched outward in their own directions. Esau cleared his throat, the sound breaking the thick silence. "Will we meet again?" he asked, a simple question laid bare beneath the endless sky. Jacob paused, then nodded. "I believe this is not the end of our story. The roads we walk may diverge and twist, but the threads between us endure. We will meet again, in time, in place, in spirit." A breeze stirred, lifting the edges of the canvas screen and rustling the dry grass beneath their feet. The night's cool breath whispered promises of rest and renewal. Esau started toward the distant line of tents, where shadows shifted softly against the tent fabric. Jacob followed slowly, eyes tracing the faint outline of his brother's figure, moving with quiet resolve. As they reached the camp's edge, the brothers parted with a nod, no grand words, no farewells needed. Their connection was a fragile flame, sustained not by force, but by the slow tending of acceptance. Jacob settled by the corner of his tent, feeling the weight of the night and the coming dawn. His thoughts circled the promise of his birthright, not a chain, but a covenant woven with hope, tested by trials, yet resilient. Far across the camp, Esau lay beneath the open sky, the cool earth steady beneath him. His mind wandered through the wilderness of his life, its solitude, its lessons, its unspoken longings, and despite everything, he felt the slow stirrings of hope, a quiet certainty that his journey was not yet finished. Between them, under the vast canopy of stars, time seemed to fold, a moment suspended between past and future, loss and redemption. The story paused here, a breath held in the quiet of night, waiting to unfold further with the coming light. Night deepened over the camp, folding the brothers in a soft, quiet lull. The embers in the fire had all but died away, leaving shadows that mingled quietly with the silence. Yet in that silence between footsteps, in the pause of breaths drawn slow and steady, something unspoken lingered, an invitation to keep walking, together or apart, but with intentions made clearer than before. Jacob settled on a weathered stone, a place shaped by years of use and weather. He gazed into the darkened sky, where stars wove a tapestry beyond telling, their light steady and patient. And in that vast calm, he found himself thinking not just of birthrights or lost promises, but of something more fragile: trust. Like the stars above, it was something that had to be constant, even in the face of storms. Esau stood nearby, hands tucked into the folds of his cloak, his breath a mist in the chilly air. His eyes carried a softness now, one born of knowing how weighty regret could be, but also how light hope might feel when allowed to bloom uninterrupted. He was no longer the impulsive youth of yesteryear, but a man who had learned the difficult art of patience. That knowledge, perhaps, was a kind of birthright too. Without a word, Esau took a few steps closer to where Jacob sat. Their shoulders brushed slightly, a touch as natural as the quiet night itself. Neither reached for words. Sometimes all that mattered was the assurance that they were there, each a mirror, reflecting the other's strengths and mistakes, fears and quiet courage. The night whispered around them, carrying with it the scent of earth and distant cedar, grounding each moment in something ancient and real. Jacob's thoughts drifted, weaving between past and future, spotting the fragile threads where their stories intertwined. All the choices, all the hurt, all the love that had shaped them, they formed a loom for what might still come. Esau finally broke the silence in a voice barely more than a breath. "We have both traveled far, yet somehow it feels like the journey is only beginning." Jacob nodded. "Yes, it seems the past is a river we can never fully cross, only learn to wade in with more care. But the future isn't a place we travel alone," Esau completed. There it was, the simple truth they both needed to hear. Their bond was not erased by pride or mistakes. Instead, it was forged anew in understanding, in the willingness to keep learning who they were to one another and to themselves. The wind, gentle now, stirred Esau's cloak. He looked up at the stars again, tracing constellations with a finger. Maybe the hunger isn't just from an empty belly or longing for a name. Maybe it's for this, the chance to find peace with what has been, and courage to meet what will be. Jacob smiled softly. "I think you're right, and that hunger is not something we can sell or barter away. It has to be fed with kindness and truth." In the stillness, time felt fluid, pressing past regrets into lessons, smoothing sharp edges of anger, giving space for understanding to blossom. In that moment, even the memory of trades made in haste seemed less heavy, less like chains, as if the very act of reflection, of shared silence, was a beginning of healing neither could have forced, but both now welcomed. Esau's eyes met Jacob's, reflecting a tentative hope. "I am ready, brother, ready to walk forward, not haunted by what I lost, but inspired by what I might become." Jacob reached out, resting a hand briefly on Esau's arm, the contact warm and steady, a promise not in words, but in presence. "We both are." As they rose, the first faint light of dawn began to lace the horizon. Slowly the sky shifted from velvet indigo to soft blues and gentle golds. The world seemed to hold its breath with them, suspended between night's endings and day's beginnings. Steps fell lightly on the earth as they moved from the camp, each step both a farewell and an invitation, a testament to the powerful roots of family intertwined with the fragile branches of forgiveness and hope. And though their paths would lead them apart at times, the quiet understanding they had found beneath the stars was a seed planted deep, destined to grow in unexpected ways. The promise of reunion hummed quietly between them like the morning air, inevitable and tender. And as light bloomed fully, the brothers carried forward, their shared story unfolding like the dawn, forever unfinished, forever held in the gentle hands of time. As dawn's first light brushed the horizon with tender hues of rose and amber, the world around them seemed to exhale softly, as if sharing in the quiet renewal blossoming between Jacob and Esau. Their eyes met once more, steady and open, a silent acknowledgement passing between them that words could not fully capture. Esau took a slow, measured breath, feeling the cool morning air fill his lungs, grounding him in this new moment. "I never thought we would reach this place," he murmured, voice low and steady, "where the space between us feels less like chasms and more like bridges." Jacob nodded, his gaze steady but gentle. "Bridges built not only from memory, but from willingness. Willingness to meet each other beyond the limits of what we are afraid of, or what we once believed." They moved together toward the edge of the hill where they had spent the night, the ground still soft beneath their feet, dew clinging silently to grass blades. The rising sun touched the landscape with light that was neither harsh nor eager, but patient and kind, like the feeling settling deep into their bones. Esau's voice softened further, a kind of confession carried on morning light. "I used to think that my birthright was simply a prize to be won, a title to clutch tight, but I see now it is more, a story, a legacy entwined not with possessions, but with the people who shape us." Jacob listened intently, feeling the weight of those words settle between them without judgment. "The birthright is not a thing to be sold or seized," he said quietly. "It is something lived, thread by thread, in the weaving of our shared past and the unfolding of our future." They sat down on the cool earth, side by side but not touching, letting the warmth of the morning seep into their skin. Around them, the world was waking. Birds began their songs, distant streams murmured softly, and the trees stirred gently in the breeze. For a time, silence enveloped them again, a different kind of silence, one that held space, honored what had been spoken, and invited what had yet to be said. It was neither empty nor forced. It was full of presence, rooted in mutual respect and the fragile trust reborn between two souls who had once been estranged. Jacob's hand moved unconsciously toward a small stone lying nearby. He picked it up, turning it slowly in his palm. Just as a stone gains character from the rivers and years it endures, perhaps we too carry the marks of our journeys, not as burdens, but as reminders of strength and change. Esau's eyes followed the movement, then shifted to the horizon where the sun climbed steadily. "Our past is not something to run from or regret endlessly," he said quietly, "but a foundation, sometimes cracked and scarred, but capable of holding us if we step carefully." Jacob smiled, a small, genuine smile. "Careful steps, Esau, that is all we need now, to be cautious with the fragile threads of what remains and careful in weaving what's yet to come." The air hung still again, filled with a shared understanding that this moment was both an end and a beginning. Two brothers, once torn apart by haste and pride, now sitting quietly, rebuilding with courage softly spoken and patiently felt. Esau brushed pine needles aside and rested his hand flat on the earth. "It is humbling, isn't it, to find that what we sought so desperately was within reach all along, within the simple act of being seen and accepting each other." "Yes," Jacob replied, "being seen without pretense. The birthright we once fought over is not an object, but a bond, a trust to honor ourselves and one another, The sun fully embraced the day, spilling golden light over them, blessing this fragile peace. Neither hastened to rise, holding on to the stillness like a sacred gift. After a few more moments, Esau stood, extending a hand to Jacob. "Shall we walk together a while? There's much to discover even in familiar lands." Jacob took the hand, rising with a steady grace. Together then, not as rivals, but as brothers who have learned the meaning of patience and forgiveness. They began to walk slowly down the hill, their footsteps soft and unhurried, as if trying not to disturb the quiet promise they had made to each other and to the world. With every step, the weight of old wounds seemed to lessen, replaced by cautious hope and the unspoken assurance that some journeys never really end. They simply change course, widening into new paths of reconciliation and understanding. As the morning sun climbed higher, their shadows intertwined on the path ahead, no longer separate and distant, but mingled and moving forward side by side. In that gentle light, there was a sense of fullness, not the sharp grasping for what was lost, but the calm acceptance of what remains, ready to be treasured and renewed with careful hands and open hearts. And so the brothers walked on, together, into the unfolding day, a living testament to the enduring power of trust, forgiveness, and the quiet courage of a shared journey. The sun climbed higher, its light spilling over the hills, dappling through the trees as Esau and Jacob continued their slow, measured walk. Their breaths mingled in the cool air, steady and quiet, a rhythm that spoke of newfound peace. The land around them whispered stories in the rustle of leaves, as if nature itself welcomed this fragile truce. Esau glanced at Jacob, a faint smile touching his lips, something soft and unfamiliar after years of tension. "I never thought we would reach this place," he said, voice low. "Not because I doubted you, but because I doubted myself, my own capacity to change." Jacob nodded, his eyes tracing the curve of a distant ridge. "We have both carried burdens too heavy to bear alone, but walking beside you now, I feel those burdens shared, less sharp." They paused near a quiet brook, its water clear and steady. Jacob bent, cupping the cool liquid in his hands, offering it to Esau. Esau accepted, drinking slowly, savoring the simple nourishment. "This flowing water," Jacob murmured, "reminds me of how our pasts can cleanse rather than condemn. The lines between us need not be walls, but channels through which understanding moves." Esau let the thought settle. "I have spent so long chasing what I thought I needed: possession, power, the birthright as a trophy. But it is nothing like this," he said, gesturing around the tranquil scene. "It is living, breathing, growing." Jacob's gaze softened. "And it will grow with us, as we continue to choose connection over conflict. The birthright is not a prize to win, but a promise of faith, respect, and the willingness to be vulnerable." The two brothers sat on a smooth rock beside the brook, their shoulders no longer tense but relaxed, their conversation slowly unfolding into memories and small hopes. Esau's voice held a quiet wonder. "I remember moments when I thought I was alone, or worse, an enemy to myself. But now, with you, I see a path back from that solitude. A path made by forgiveness." Jacob's smile deepened, gently touching the edges of old regret. "We each stumbled in our own way. But stumbling does not mean falling forever. It means learning how to stand differently." The gentle flow of the water seemed to carry away remnants of bitterness, replacing them with a serene understanding. The afternoon light softened, casting long shadows that interlaced like the threads of an ancient tapestry, woven with threads of both struggle and release. Suddenly Esau broke the silence, his tone steady yet reflective. "There is something I have wanted to say, but needed to feel worth saying, that while the birthright belongs to us as brothers, its true power might be in what we build together beyond it." Jacob's eyes lifted to meet his brother's, clear, unwavering. "Yes, it is not the birthright itself, but what we do with it that changes everything. Our legacy is alive in the choices we make each day to honor one another." The breeze carried the scent of wild herbs and distant rain, a reminder of seasons changing, something constant yet never the same. Esau reached into his cloak, pulling out a small rough stone. "This," he said, offering it to Jacob, "felt like just a stone once. But in your metaphor I see it as a symbol of our journey, something shaped by time, pressure, and friendship." Jacob took the stone carefully, turning it over in his hands. "A stone that has passed through many hands can tell many stories, each layer a lesson, a moment of grace. Together they rose, feeling the pull of evening drawing near. Their steps resumed, quiet and sure, tracing the contours of a future neither could have imagined before this day. As the shadows lengthened, Esau's voice came softly. I hope we carry this day as gently as the dusk, not clinging but letting it settle when it is ready. Jacob nodded. And when the night comes, we will rest in the knowledge that what we have begun is stronger than any nightfall. They walked on, the rhythm of their steps echoing a peace earned through patience and humility. The horizon glowed faintly, a cradle of possibility. The birthright, once a distant and contested treasure, had transformed. It was now a quiet covenant, a tender thread stitching two lives into a shared tapestry of hope. In their silence, the world seemed to sigh with them, an ancient blessing whispering on the wind, soft, enduring, and true. As twilight deepened, the sky grew soft and violet and deepening blue. The gentle rustle of leaves and the distant call of birds settling in for night wrapped around Jacob and Esau like a quiet benediction. Their steps fell slowly along the path, a rhythm unspoken, yet wholly shared. Esau looked to Jacob, feeling the weight of their talk linger in the cooling air. That this, what we have now, is what it means to honor the birthright, not the claim, but the stewardship. Jacob glanced at him, eyes serene. Yes, it is less about possession and more about the living pulse of responsibility. When we choose to bear it together, it becomes more than a birthright. It becomes our bond. They passed beneath a canopy of branches, leaves gently whispering secrets to the breeze. Esau's fingers traced the rough stone in his pocket, the one he had given Jacob, feeling its uneven edges worn smooth by time and touch. This stone, Esau said softly, reminds me that even what seems rough or hardened holds a story of endurance. Perhaps our story is not unlike it, shaped by struggle but softened by understanding. Jacob nodded. There is strength in gentleness, resilience in kindness. The path curved alongside the brook, where waters still murmured their steady song. The moon began to rise, a pale silver crescent casting a quiet glow. Both men paused beside the steady flow. Water, Esau breathed, always moving forward, yet carrying everything with it. Our past, our dreams, our mistakes, still flowing, still changing. Jacob smiled faintly, eyes reflecting the shimmering surface. And like this water, we can choose to carry each other's burdens instead of letting them sink us. Esau reached out, dipping his hand into the cool stream. He scooped some water and let it pour slowly back, watching how it slipped through his fingers, invisible yet undeniable. It's strange, he admitted. I thought I needed to hold tight, to grasp hard, including that birthright, but now I see it's something alive, needing space to breathe. And trust, Jacob added, trust that it can grow in new forms, unexpected and fragile. The silence between them was full but gentle. They turned from the brook and continued walking under the rising moonlight. Each step felt lighter, the burdens passed between them less cumbersome than before. Esau's voice broke the stillness once more. When I was young, I saw the birthright as a shield, something to protect against loss and vulnerability. But it's not a shield, it's an invitation, to be known, to be seen. Jacob's eyes softened, meeting Esau's with a warmth that seemed to embrace years of regret and hope, an invitation to live honestly, without disguise. They walked side by side now, shadows blending into one under the silver light. Jacob, will you, Esau asked quietly, walk with me through the unknown, not as rivals or strangers, but as brothers who choose connection every day? Jacob's answer was a steady nod, a soft smile threading through his expression. Every day, together. The air grew cooler, the night's stillness settling deep into the earth. Above them, stars began to scatter silver pinpricks, watchful, patient, enduring. Esau looked up, breath visible in the chill. Do you think the stars remember our ancestors' longings, their hopes for peace and unity? Jacob's gaze held the constellations as if searching for answers. Perhaps, and maybe in some quiet way, they guide us still. The stone in Esau's hand felt warmer now, a simple talisman etched by time and transformation. He slipped it gently into Jacob's palm. Carry this, Esau said, voice tender, as a reminder that what is precious grows from patience and humility. Jacob closed his fingers around it, a silent promise sealed in the warmth between them. The two stood there for a moment, two figures in the vastness of night, linked by something stronger than words or rites. As they resumed their walk, The promise between them became a gentle light, illuminating the path ahead no matter how shadowed or uncertain. It was not the birthright of old, hardened by division, but a living covenant born of forgiveness and choice. The earth beneath their feet seemed steady and kind. The breeze carried whispers of blessing, faint as a lullaby, yet deep as the roots of the oldest trees. In that quiet unfolding, Jacob and Esau moved forward, not to claim or conquer, but to honor, to nurture, and to share whatever days were yet to come. And the night held its breath with them, a silent witness to a beginning gently born from the ending of old wounds. As they rise from the brook's edge, a hush falls between them, the quiet punctuated only by a soft rustling of leaves, stirred by a whispering breeze. The night, with its cool breath and silver light, wraps around them like a comforting shawl. It drapes their shoulders anew, as if gifting them a shared mantle to pace the path ahead. Jacob slips the rough stone into his pocket, the heft and texture, an intimate reminder of endurance and the slow shaping of character. In that weight he carries more than the memory of their long-past quarrel. He carries the transformed spirit of brotherhood, the resilience born of their shared trials and healings. Esau's gaze lingers on the stars, now higher, their scattered light whispering ancient promises. The constellations, steady in their celestial vault, seem to pulse softly with the rhythm of time, patient, unhurried. In those distant fires, Esau finds a luminous connection to the generations who dreamed of harmony between brothers, who wished for understanding over conflict, presence over possession. He breathes in deeply, his thoughts unspooling like the flow of the brook they've just left behind. The birthright, long seen as a prize, a symbol of inheritance and power, now feels different, more like an opening than a claim. It is a soft call towards authenticity, the unfolding of a life lived without pretense or rivalry. It is connection, not conquest. Jacob meets his brother's eyes again, and in that simple, unguarded moment, there is a quiet acknowledgement of how far they have come. The past, no longer a chain to bind, becomes a bridge beneath their footsteps, a way forward illuminated not by shadowy regrets, but by the steady glow of choice, forgiveness, and love. Together they turn toward the path that leads home, their strides slow, steady, a rhythm in perfect harmony. They walk not as adversaries or competitors, but as two halves knit by blood and long years, now stitched anew with understanding. The hush of the night embraces them, carrying with it silent blessings, the whispered benedictions of wind and earth. Esau's voice breaks the stillness, soft and thoughtful. "There is a strength in yielding, Jacob," he says, his tone a gentle murmur, like leaves brushing one another. In leaving space for the other, trust grows, just as the stars give light, not holding it back but sharing it endlessly. Jacob nods, words unnecessary, their bond spoken in the quiet cadence of shared presence. Their breath mingles briefly, a gentle harmony with the night's own song. The trees seem to lean closer, their limbs cradling the brothers' journey. Somewhere nearby an owl's call echoes, long, low, a sentinel song that honors their passage. The natural world, as if sensing the sacredness of this reconciliation, holds its steady vigil alongside them. As the first whispers of dawn brush the edges of the sky, a delicate pink melting into the deep blue, they reach the crest of a hill. From there the valley unfurls like a green expanse embroidered with gold threads of sunlight, a promise of new beginnings woven into the waking earth. Standing side by side, Jacob and Esau behold this familiar land anew. It feels larger somehow, open and inviting, mirroring the space now growing between them, not distance, but invitation. A place where they might walk without shadows trailing behind. Esau reaches out, clasping Jacob's shoulder, a wordless pact breathed into the morning air. Let us tend this new day, together. And so they begin their descent, two brothers walking into the light, no longer bound by old wounds, but united by the gentle strength of forgiveness and the enduring power of love. The birthright, once sold for a moment's hunger, now returned to its true place, not as a prize won or lost, but as a living covenant between souls who choose connection above all else. Under the endless sky, with the earth warm beneath their feet, Jacob and Esau move forward, steady, patient, whole. The story finds its breath here, softly lingering in the quiet promise of a dawn untouched by strife.